would take a whole star, and the mitochondria would be a step-down capacitor for that star to be sentient in a human body.
Okay, so in other words,
it's the fuel. It's the fuel of life. And that's why the Galactic Council, that's why I told Enlil about the mitochondria. Matter of fact, if you read in Zechariah Extensions about the book of Enki, I forgot what the name of it is. It's like the life of Enki or something, but he talked about in there and knew describing mitochondrial to Enlil.
Right.
And Anu laughed at Enlil because he thought the Y chromosome was superior to the mitochondrial, and that should give him the right to rule Earth. And that's what caused all of the conflict that they say, and there was a war in heaven, and Michael, which is a title, which is the leader of the military contingent of Nibiru, Michael, went to war with Lucifer is not who they say he is. And they changing the positions because Lucifer is a feminine enlightenment, we call Inanna energy, but they replaced it with what Enlil did. Enlil is the one who rebelled and got cast. Well, he didn't get cast to the earth, he came to the earth. They keep saying, like they call in the Anunnaki in the Bible, Nephala, those who failed. Did none of those angels fall? They all came down here. And the motherfuckers came down here fighting. So the mitochondrial energy, the woman can adjust it in the man to turn his higher consciousness on. But the man will take a lifetime trying to do it on his own.
That's why one of the sayings of now today, all strong men need a strong woman. Because when you really look back at ancient societies, it was the goddesses that was making them niggas gods. It wasn't the gods ordaining them as goddesses. It was the goddesses making them into gods.
Well, that ties back into the writings of Baruch Shango, that he wrote the book, African Woman, the Original Guardian Angel. The women are called kingmakers. If she has a good grasp of herself and her ability to adjust the mitochondria just by being, it's more complicated than that, but to simplify it, she becomes a kingmaker because she turns on and turns up at stages the mitochondrial in her mate. So when the mother picked your mate for you, you thinking that you going wherever you going looking for a woman that you picking her. No, she's not going to pay you any attention unless your mother give her the call through the heart chakra. Some of them is just training, and some of them is the real deal. And you won't never know until you wake all the way up, and then you can read the signs that told you who's who and what's what.
So when we going about picking our mates, how would you advise the brothers and sisters of a methodology that may be in line with something that's more, proper to do as improper to do?
The easiest thing to tell them is don't look for her, she'll come find you. And you will know when she finds you because you will feel something that you didn't feel before. I don't look for women, but they find me at the right time. And like I tell them, if you see me sitting across the couch from you, that's not no accident.
But you tell them that ain't no accident.
No, because I don't have a regular conversation. I don't have a regular approach, and I ain't the regular nigga. So if you see yourself sitting across the couch from me, that's some motherfucking high rank shit right there. You a bad motherfucker.
Boy, you hell. Rod Hayes, y'all. Rod Hayes back in the building, giving it up once again. So, all right, so let's go here. Out of all of the years that Pops have been doing all of this, and out of all of the people who have come along the path to be practitioners of the protocols in the Wabu, how many of those in the community are still left that's still aware in this capacity?
I couldn't tell you that answer right there because I do know this. all of the ones that was living off Baba without his consent, they got to answer for that shit. All the ones who thought they was going to steal the scrolls and write their own version of it and get away with that shit, they got to answer for that shit, but they don't got to answer to me. And Pops might send them to a motherfucker with zero mercy. If he send you to somebody with zero mercy, a dreaded judge, a Judge Dredd, and you did that shit, you might lose your head. Literally. This is the cleanup. All of the dirty motherfuckers has got to get cleaned up.
Damn, that's some gang shit. Like, that's how the brothers in the streets look at it.
Remember Farrakhan did a speech talking to the gangs and told them how the fuck how y'all gonna be the army of the righteous and y'all killing each other?
Right.
Y'all the army of the righteous, the Crips, the Bloods, the Vice Lords, the Blackstones, the GDs, the BDs, the Four Corner Hustlers, the MS-13, the Locos, the Latin Kings, the Latin Counts. Y'all the army of the righteous. That ain't no mistake. That's not by accident. We the tribes, we the clans from the land, on the land, and we didn't even know that we was being turned against each other by foreign forces. Now we know. And this shit ain't working no more. When you see Baba, you're going to see Chapo with him. You're going to see Larry Hoover with him. You're going to see Jeff Ford with him. They all coming. All of the ones that you're going to see people that you thought was dead, they going to be coming with Baba. So all of the ones out there that think that they, we Sabians now, and we don't have to listen to what Pop's saying from in there, he's still writing scrolls, you silly asses.
They said that, some people said that basically that Pop sanctioned the Sabians, but I've been instructed.
I don't care what they say. The only one can tell me who he sanctions is him. So when he get home, we gonna have this conversation in private in family business. This is a family business thing between the Sabians and the Nuwapian Nation, and the final motherfucking mallet drop with Malachi York. The rest of them can say he sanctioned this and he sanctioned that. All that he said, she said shit go out the window when you got the man in your face.
Yeah.
Because when he asked him, okay, when did I sanction that? Did you got it in writing or did I tell you on the phone? Because if I told you on the phone, the Department of Corrections got it recorded. If I said it in writing, I can tell you if it's my handwriting.
Right. That part.
So that don't have nothing to do with me. I don't have to clean nobody's house up. I just got to tell you who the leader of the house is.
Right.
So all of the dirty Moors, they got to answer Angel Bay, and he not happy.
Ooh.
He been locked up over damn near 50 years like Larry. Ain't now one of them happy. I don't have to clean that shit up. They got the grand governing body of the Moors know exactly what I'm talking about. The dirty Moors is all on file with the grand body from motherfucking the community complaining to the grand body. Who is this grand sheik over here stealing our money? They
Damn.
know. I don't have to clean that shit up. I just had to tell y'all they came in as conquistadors, 32 degree Scottish Rite Freemasons under the Albert Pike motherfucking morals and dogma, and they changed George Washington so that you don't know that the George Washington was the Albert Pike and that they're the same motherfucker, and that's the way they can change the Constitution and move the Constitution. They can move the Constitution from Philadelphia, which was the capital east of the Appalachian Mountains, of that territory, which was separate from everything west of the Appalachians. And then when they crossed the Appalachian Mountains, then they violated the motherfucking ordinances that allowed them to settle on the east coast of the states. When they did that, they've done that under the Louisiana Purchase when they sent Lois and Clark, and Big Ben Bay was their translator, and they sent them across the land to go inspect the castles, and found out we wasn't there because we was all fighting guerrilla wars in the land of the flowers we call Florida. But back then, it was the whole southeastern United States, what we call Georgia, Arkansas, North and South Carolina, and all of that was the land of flowers, but they reduced it to what we could see today as Florida. And the capital down there was Mar-a-Lago, but we don't know none of this shit about our history. So they gonna have to answer to who they got to answer to. I'm just telling y'all who the dirty motherfuckers was.
Word, because that's where I live at. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm originally from Jersey, but I grew up in Brooklyn pad. Mm-hmm. And I live down here, and Pop's got roots down here. he sent us down here to run the bookstores, and I don't really, deal with a lot of the people that's still in the bookstore. It's different, and I've been instructed not to even speak on it. But, yeah, man, it's been a good session, huh?
Yeah, like I said, that's family business. Baba gonna straighten it out when he get home, and all of the dirty players bend over and kiss your ass goodbye right now. He know who they is.
Yeah.
Look, when Enlil made his move for Earth, you remember they changed the name of Nibiru to Marduk, right?
Right.
Baba was the Marduk sent to claim Nibiru to keep Enlil from sending his kids to sack Nibiru when he attacked the Earth.
Right.
He had his son Marduk. Enlil had a son named Marduk, named after Baba, who he called from minding his own business, doing his God shit somewhere else, because it's his son. He pulled rank on him and said, "We finna take Earth." His Enlil's son Marduk didn't want to be here in the first goddamn place, but because his father got caught up in this light lock and he had to come down here and hold the reins, Baba had to go secure Nibiru. We on Earth knew when Nibiru was secure when they changed the name. Now we can go to war.
Got you. So it's funny. I'm gonna ask you your take on this, because my mother actually gave me the attribute of Messiah Nanorta Naya Al-Mahdi. So could you explain to people who Nanorta was?
I think that's your job.
Well, I know, but I don't. The elders got me on strictly language, so I don't explain doctrine. That's why I call you. I don't teach doctrine.
Well,
all
look,
I teach is the Wapic. That's the instructions and the assignment I've been given, and I'm sticking to it.
So you remember Baba say when Sananda come, he gonna tell you what the name means?
Uh-huh.
Right. So it's one of those scenarios. That's something that when you teach the language, it's gonna come up, and you're gonna have to elaborate on it more.
Got you. Well, I know what it means because it's my name. So
I know. And Sananda means divine love.
Yep. So
Tracy say, interesting about protocols. Was just reading over the protocols out of the Cape Town Convention System and the new territory or the new treaties protocols. Not familiar with them documents she's talking about.
basically, I've been reaching a lot of women, basically. Like most of the participants. Matter of fact, another sister just reached out to me yesterday. She wanted to do some private classes in the Wabic. It seems like more of the sisters are actually coming over to taking the language serious than the men.
Remember earlier when I said that you was asking about the sisters that wanted to study the new Wapic before they get in, the new Wabu before they go to new Wapic, and I said the sisters is once they realize what it is going to be the ones flocking to the language first.
Yep, you definitely said that.
Yeah, so it just ties back in to what was already said. So the women got a women's intuition that's so underrated, and most women neglect it because the system tell them if they listen to their intuition, they crazy. So they ignore their intuition. No, don't ignore that shit. You can save your life and your loved ones by listening to it. And for a wise man, know the difference between when she intuitively telling you something and when she's controllingly telling you something, because they don't mean the same thing.
Give an example.
If you don't know your woman well enough to know when she's giving you something from the intuition, which is pure, unfiltered spirit information, and when she tell it to you, her expression different, her tone is different, her body language is different. You got to learn that language of listening to the woman, because she gonna save your fucking life.
So explain to the brothers a little bit more in depth about that so that they'll be able to assess, because I've also had another brother who's been in the community. He hasn't lived in the community, but he's been a part of the community for some years. And every time he calls me, he's having problems with his mate as far as, her relating to the information and the culture and stuff.
look, if he's doing his part and she see him as stable and focused on his goals, all of her resistance and her support of him is going to fade. But if he's unstable emotionally and he's unstable about pursuing his goal, she's going to be unstable in her support. She can't support an unstable building.
Absolutely.
He the building. He is the building. All of the men we are the Solomon, the soul of man that the temple was being built for. We the temples. She can't support you. So the women is the ones actually sending the good men to teach the good boys how to be good men. And they sending all of the bad boys that ain't gonna never amount to nothing to learn from bad men how to hurry up and destroy themselves so they can get that shit over with.
Get them out the way, so to speak.
Yeah. So Christ, the great silver tree, say, can you explain the Great Wall of China and why was it built? I actually went over that in one of my lives and I was talking about, it might have been with Young Elder, but Enlil opened a portal to a mirror dimension to get a being that we called the Great Dragon Bitch. And when she came with hordes, and they didn't look like us. The Great Wall was to have a, it's just like the movie The Great Wall with Tom Cruise, only they didn't look like the ones in the movie. They looked like, she had wings. She was about 9 feet tall, and she was a biped lizard humanoid thing. She the one who was executed in 2018 living under the Vatican. Inanna came back to personally execute her. I wanted to do it, but shit. Anyway, the Great Wall was built to fight them and harness them into a ravine that we could fight them off. When we started killing them, they started being born looking like melanated humans. The only problem is that they couldn't and still can't breed with us if they wanted them. They can't have children with us. They can only have babies with each other. And they chromosomes is backwards to ours. And they females look male and they males look female. That's why he done it, because he wanted to usurp the throne. And if you even look at the word usurp, it means to go under something. And if you look under the Vatican, it's a whole, what they call throne room to so-called the dragon bitch, the great archon. That's what they talking about. When they talk about the archons, they talking about the ones he opened the portal to allow in. When you look in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he called them the Dark Brothers that he got rid of once, but somebody opened the portal and let him back in. And that he would come back in a distant age in order to get rid of them. Well, this is a distant age, and they getting the fuck out of here. And I don't care where they go, but they can't stay here.
So they can't stay here, huh?
No.
So I was reading some of the comments. Can you explain the difference between the Adamites and the Atumites?
Phonetics. The Adama is where the Adamites come from. And they talk about those who was organic from the earth. Atum was the father of Adam, which is a whole species of what we call Hindus. That's a whole nother bloodline on earth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we right now everybody's waiting on Baba to come home so that Pops could actually get us back in tune with the things that we need to be actually doing, which a lot of us like such as brothers like yourself and Rod Hayes, the fourth elder, Brother Love, my mentor, are already doing. What do you want to tell the people that out there that's wondering or confused? What do you think that we can expect, if you can elaborate on that, when the master teacher actually gets back?
All we already told y'all. All of the ones that's frauds is gonna be put on the spot for their fraud. All of the ones that's thieves is gonna be put on the spot for their theft. Look, there's a lot of people that's not people that look like people. Everything that look human ain't human.
Oh, I
right?
already know. I already know.
A lot of these things that look like us ain't us. They infiltrated at every level of our societies. We know who they all is now, but it took us a long time to know who they are, what they did. Right? We didn't used to take on human form. That's why the human bones only go back so far in the fossil record. We used to incarnate and disincarnate, going up and down the ascension ladder, and we would come to Earth to experience a 3D polarized reality. And then we would ascend back up, and then we would come back down. There was no such thing as death, right? We didn't know what death was. Death is a construct created in order to instill fear in us. All it is they collapsed the fourth dimension into the third dimension when we incarnated to get them off the planet, to trap us on the planet. So it was all science. And the science was used in conjunction with conjure in order to trap us in Kingu, the sleep state, or the Kali Yuga, which was artificially induced by one of Enlil's sons, who they call Zuin or Humbaba, who stole the scrolls of destiny, who manifested as Alexander, who went into India to get the scroll of governments to rule the earth.
Right, I remember that because one of the things when I was younger, I used to ask my mother about why was that one of my attributes, and she always referred me to the story of them sending the Norta to go to Zuin to fight the war to get the Tablet of Destinies back and bring it back to the Anunnaki. And the Norta was considered to be the warrior and the brave one that actually performed attacks or went on the assignment.
Mm-hmm. So it was we was all dispatched to different parts of the planet. The elders. And when the elders was dispatched to different parts of the planet, everybody had to find a piece of the puzzle to put this shit back together at the close of the age. And here we are putting this puzzle together.
Right. Reliving it. So another question in here is, explain vibration and frequency and the difference and its importance. I think you already went over the importance, but I guess this is a definition question. The definition of frequency and the definition of vibration and how we should interpret those words.
Okay, so frequency is predicated upon points of peaked vibration or sound. It's like a oscillation. Every peak, the level of peaks determines the frequency, which when you trace the word frequency back is how frequent or often, or it's a consistent rate of oscillation. That's the frequency. The vibration is the thing which has the frequency. And the vibration is the movement of the energy. So you measuring the energy by its frequency, and then by knowing the frequency, you know what the vibration is, or the rate in which this energy comes into 3D reality. It's like measuring brain waves. They all got a different frequency, and they all on a different, so it's like a radio. You got a whole bunch of radio stations, and you can change the dial to a different frequency in order to get a different channel. Every frequency has a different channel, and there's a different broadcast coming on every channel. So when we're talking about vibrations and frequencies, we're talking about sound. It got to be a sound at its root. And the sound is a audio rendition of light. So if you notice certain lasers, when they turn them on, they hiss. Right? That's the sound. That's where they coming in at. On that hiss is telling you where the sound is coming from in frequency and point of origin.
Okay, that's correct. So how does that relate to resonant energy?
Okay, so now go back to the radio. You're not going to get the same channels in Chicago that you pick up in Miami. The resonant frequency is the frequency from a specific area, right? It can only, the sound wave can only rise from this area, becomes a resonant frequency, or a resident frequency is a better way to look at it.
Why is that?
Because it's only in a certain, it only has a certain reach. And it's just like when you're in a residence, you only live in a certain place.
Right.
So you got an address. When you have a resonant frequency, the resonant is the residence of the frequency, tell you where it comes from. It's like the address.
So some people was reaching out to me. I guess they've been reading certain books that was dealing with the electron. And I'm pretty dope on the comprehension about the electron. But what they were saying was that they consider the electron God.
They can consider whatever they want to consider as God. That's their option as a free will, in a free will universe. But the electron is only part of an atom. You can't have a positive charge without a negative charge and vice versa. But you can have a neutral charge with both of them.
That is correct. So I was speaking with a sister, and I was trying to give her the understanding similar to you as far as, vibration and frequency, and that the phenomena that humans call sound is more accurately described as vibration or movement. And, since there is vibration and movement on all scales, from the microcosmic and subatomic to the macroscopic and universal, that there is indeed sound on all scales as well. Just as there is visible light spectrum of electron movement that we can see, there is also audible sound spectrum of movement of vibrations that we can hear. And I was explaining that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to look at, when you get to the atom, you take the electron and you got a string of light that's curled up in the ball. They call that the string theory in science.
Right. I'm familiarized with that.
Okay, now, if you stretch the string of light out, the less condensed it is, the different frequency it's going to put out. It's going to change it. The Higgs boson is light literally tied into a knot, which causes it to create the appearance of density.
Right.
Right. So now we're talking God particles, Higgs boson. So what we perceiving is holographically generated, and any part of the hologram is a representation of the whole.
Right. It's like divided into individual parts, but they all contain everything in all the parts.
And that's why they say as above, so below, as within, so without. Even when I talk about Enlil, Enki, I'm talking about frequencies in reality. I'm talking about vibrations, but I got to put it in the term that we know about.
Right, because I was explaining that to a sister that, and I think she pretty much got heated when I was telling her that basically the way that we were educated in the tab was not the same way that they were educated just by strictly reading the scrolls. And I think she was pretty offended, but I didn't mean it in that way. All I was trying to tell her was that there is a lot of what's called esoteric knowledge inside of the protocols in the Wobble, right? And when I say esoteric knowledge, I'm talking about anthropomorphism and anthropopathism as a means to give a clear, concise, and comprehensive understanding of complex subject matter, right? It's not literal, it's symbolic, right? These energies are literal, but the actual person that you're talking about may not be literal. And when I tell you she was pissed off, she was pissed off. She was pissed off.
See, but that's because the exoteric and the esoteric is mirror images of each other. And if you are a diligent student, the esoteric will appear as like a leak in the exoteric. So when we study in the higher sciences, we study in at its source dark matter.
Absolutely.
But everything that we tell you in science is a way to understand the dark matter and how it becomes solidified as 3D condensation in the hologram in order to form something that we can experience three-dimensionally.
Right. So back to the electron, because it just a thought came to my mind. So when I was actually having a conversation with the one, well, actually it was two, it was a brother and a sister. I was trying to describe to them that the words electric and electricity both derive from the Greek word electron, and that the word electron is composed of two Greek words, elect, meaning to choose or pick out, which is also related to, the word elite, selected or chosen, and that the word tron is an instrumentative suffix used with a verb to designate something that performs some action. So in this case, something that elects or chooses, for example, the particle that elects to move, and that the etymological root of all of the words, electric, electricity, electron, elect, elite, lecture, and intellect is lexis, as in lexicon, and more specifically, the Greek word or Latin word logos, the spoken word in the Greek philosophy that was designed from the creative utterance word or tone of what we call patah, called hu in ancient Kemetic philosophy. And they thought that that was just, a little bit more complex. You got a more simplistic way of explaining it.
That sounded pretty simplified form to me.
That's what I thought. Like, it's just like, but I think that sometimes when people are reading, they're reading with intent to not have to go outside of that to be able to validate or do some research about it themselves. They just want to believe in whatever the book actually said. And to me, from my perspective, that's definitely kind of lazy.
Well, not necessarily, because, like, for instance, I can use the Bible to teach a Christian out of Christianity, and they won't really be as a man-controlled drone as they are under the doctrine of the church.
Right.
The same book can have a different effect when taught at a different angle.
That's because you're going to give different interpretation as you explain and define the words.
Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come with a Bible and a strong concordance, and every time I tell them something, I'm going to show them what I'm talking about. But the church not going to do that. The church is going to say, and the Lord fed the multitude with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread.
Yeah. And that's not our way of teaching. That's definitely not our way.
And my first thing I tell them is, the first thing you got to understand about the 2 fishes, that's representation of Pisces.
Absolutely.
And then when I tell you about 5 loaves of bread, that's 5D consciousness. 5D consciousness in the Aquarian, in the Piscean age, would have put you above water. But you stuck at 32 minus, which means that you froze. Right. I'm just trying to get you to 33 and you can break free.
Right. But see, that goes back to the esoteric teachings. What you're doing is, when we teach like that, we are actually translating the symbolisms into the reality of what it's actually saying.
Right. Because when you're looking at 12 disciples in the Christ, you're looking at the old civil priest's order. But you don't know that because you don't know nothing about the civil priest. That's the average Joe. The civil priest consisted of 12 matriarchs and a grand matriarch. And that's where your Catholic Church got its form and function from. They just put the Pope up there as a drag queen.
You call him a drag queen?
he is. I can't even, what I got to do to show you, everybody see him wearing a dress every day. Yeah. They just didn't know that was the dress code for the civil priestess, and they put the colors in reverse. See, he's supposed to, if he was a woman, he'd be dressed in black instead of white, because he would be representing of the noon. And the nuns, who was, as they saying, is the representative of the noon, would be in white and not black, because they would be representative of the light that came forth from the dark mother.
Right.
But they switched everything in reverse, and then they turned it upside down, so you can't figure it out. That's our old orders. All of that shit is ancient. They just usurped it because we was familiar with it, genetic memory recognized the Christ story, but we being taught it wrong, so we don't know what it means.
Absolutely.
Just watch what happened. That's all I can tell y'all at this point. We passed trying to tell y'all. We got to watch it from here.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a sad song being sung for a lot of people. They just not listening, and like
there's more people listening than we know. It's just that the reality of what's happening versus their expectations doesn't match, so they don't know what to do and they froze.
I can see that. I could definitely see that, but nonetheless, we still need everybody. From my perspective, we need everybody active. We need to be together. We all need to be on one.
I think the big wake up is going to be when we see the elders make their appearance to the public.
Yeah, why is that?
A lot of them ain't going to move until they had that shock and awe of the disclosure and shake their consciousness. Some of them that didn't know what to do going to automatically remember at that point. It's a monumental event. It's a life-altering exposure. When you realize that your people been oppressed by some motherfuckers that look like you, that use pale faces to conceal their dirty hands, that's gonna be enough wake-up call for a motherfucker to be like, what the fuck? Because the worst thing I discovered in the self-discovery journey is the white man ain't white. That nigga look like us, but he ain't us. That hurt my feelings more than anything else. How can a motherfucker that look like us do this to us, but they not like us? They just look that way. They infiltrated all our organizations looking like us, talking down on whitey who they put in power.
And another question, I'm glad you mentioned that because I've explained this for the past probably 20-something years, but I want you to give your perspective on it. 6 ether and 3 ether. How would you describe 6 ether?
Can't nobody describe it better than Bubble. 6 ether is ghost. It's the death of 9 ether. It's the total inverse. So if you look at the dominant recessive gene chart, 6 ether is on one end of the spectrum and 9 ether is on the entirely other end of the spectrum. But neither one of them in and of themselves is good or